God is sending you a large financial blessing. Don't ignore this sign. You almost scrolled past this video. Something made you stop. And I need you to understand before we go 1 second further that the thing that made you stop was not an algorithm. It was not random. It was not the thumbnail or the title or perfect timing on your feed. It was a nudge. The kind that comes from somewhere deeper than curiosity. The kind that feels less like interest and more like recognition, like something. And you already knew this message existed before you found it. That nudge is the first sign. And there are more signs that have been appearing in your life quietly, consistently, in patterns you might have dismissed as coincidence or wishful thinking or desperate interpretation of a mind that wants to believe something good is coming. They are not coincidences. They are not wishful thinking. They are the advanced signals of a large financial blessing that God has been constructing in the invisible architecture of your life, and that is now close enough to the surface that the signs are becoming impossible to ignore for anyone paying the right kind of attention. This video is about teaching you to pay that kind of attention. Don't go anywhere. The signs you've been dismissing because you're afraid to be wrong here is something painfully honest that I want to say to you, and I want you to receive it without the defensive layer that pain sometimes builds around itself. You have been seeing signs. For a while now, there have been moments specific, particular moments where something in your spirit stirred with the sense that something large was approaching your financial life. A prayer that felt different from the others. A moment of unusual clarity about a vision you've been holding for years. A conversation that seemed to carry more weight than its surface content explained. A sense of nearness, of something huge pressing up against the membrane of your current reality from the other side. And every single time that stirring happened, you talked yourself out of it. Not because you wanted to, but because the cost of being wrong one more time felt like more than you could afford to pay. Because hope that doesn't materialize is its own specific kind of wound. Because you've been here before, standing in the territory of expectation, feeling the warmth of the approaching blessing, and the blessing didn't arrive on the timeline you felt it was coming, and the disappointment of that closed something in you that used to open more easily. So you developed a habit, a protective habit of pre-dismissal. Of refusing to fully believe what you were feeling, because fully believing and being wrong again was not a loss you could easily survive another time. I understand that habit. It makes complete sense as a survival mechanism. And it is the exact habit that is most dangerous for you to maintain right now. Because what is approaching your financial life is real. The signs are real. And the habit of dismissing them for the very understandable reason of self-protection is the one thing that could cause you to be unprepared for something that was always going to arrive. This message is permission. Permission to stop pre-dismissing. Permission to let yourself feel the full weight of what the signs are actually saying. Permission to be right, because this time you are. 9 signs that God is sending you a large financial blessing. Sign number 1. You have an unexplainable inner restlessness about your financial life. The first sign is the one that is easiest to mistake for anxiety, and the one that is most important to correctly identify. There is a restlessness that comes from fear. It is frantic, circular, dark in its quality. It produces the same thought on an endless loop without resolution and without any sense of direction or purpose. Fear restlessness is exhausting and contracting. And then there is a restlessness that comes from proximity. It is different in texture, less like panic and more like a stirring. Less like something going wrong and more like something getting ready to happen. It produces not dread, but a kind of electric anticipation mixed with urgency, the sense that something is approaching, and you need to be ready for it. The restlessness you have been feeling about your financial life, is it the first kind or the second? If something in you is stirring rather than spiraling, if the restlessness feels more like momentum than like doom, that is a sign. It is your spirit responding to the proximity of a financial shift that your natural eyes cannot yet see. And that stirring is worth paying attention to rather than medicating with distraction. Don't quiet the restlessness. Listen to what it's pointing toward. Sign number 2. Old financial doors have been closing in unusual ways. This sign is the one that most often gets misread as bad news, when it is actually some of the best news available. If you have been experiencing an unusual number of closed doors in your financial life recently, job situations that shifted unexpectedly, business directions that stopped working, income streams that dried up, plans that fell apart despite your best efforts to hold them together. Pay very carefully attention to the pattern. Because there are two kinds of closed doors. The first kind closes because something went wrong. Because the approach was flawed, the timing was off, or the thing you were pursuing simply wasn't meant to materialize. The second kind closes because something better is being positioned. Because the space you were occupying, though familiar and even comfortable, was a holding space rather than a destination space. And God, with the longer view of what is coming, closed the door to the holding space to create the movement toward the destination. The second kind of closed door is a setup. It looks like loss and functions as redirection. It feels like an ending and operates as a clearing, making room in your schedule, your energy, your attention, your financial landscape for what is coming to land cleanly rather than competing with what was already there. Have the recent closures in your financial life felt like endings or like something making room? If something in your honest spirit answers making room, that is a sign. Sign number 3. You have been experiencing unusual generosity toward others. This one is personal and it is specific, so pay close attention. In season immediately preceding a large financial blessing, many people experience something unusual, an increased desire to give, even when what they have to give feels insufficient, even when their own needs are pressing. A pull toward generosity that is stronger than logic can fully justify, that doesn't calculate cost the way financial survival typically demands. If you have been giving more freely recently of your money, your time, your resources, your attention when your circumstances arguably provide the least justification for it, that is not irrationality. It is alignment. It is your spirit moving into the posture that financial abundance requires before the abundance arrives. It is God preparing the hands that are going to receive a large blessing by ensuring that those hands already know how to release rather than hoard. The generous person doesn't become generous after the blessing. They are generous before it. And the generosity practiced in the season of lack, maintained as a principle rather than triggered by surplus, is one of the clearest signals that a person is ready to carry significant financial favor. Your generosity right now is not a drain on your financial recovery. It is a sign that the recovery is closer than your account balance suggests. Sign number 4. Your prayer life has shifted from asking to thanking. This sign is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. But for the person who is paying attention to the interior landscape of their spiritual life, it is unmistakable. There is a quality of prayer that belongs to the season of waiting, honest, urgent, sometimes desperate asking. And that prayer is valid, and it is received, and it matters enormously. God honors the prayer of genuine need. But something shifts in the season immediately before a significant financial blessing. The asking begins to quiet, not because faith has decreased, but because faith has deepened into a different register. The asking becomes less urgent and more confident. The petition becomes less of a request and more of a declaration. And underneath both, something new arrives that wasn't there before. Thanksgiving. Not perform thanksgiving, genuine, specific, sometimes surprising gratitude for what hasn't arrived yet, given from a place of knowing that is too settled to be manufactured by positive thinking. If your prayer life has been shifting in this direction, if you find yourself thanking God for a financial shift that hasn't yet materialized, not as a practice but as an authentic expression of something your spirit simply knows, that is a sign. It is the spirit responding to a reality that the natural senses haven't accessed yet. And when the spirit thanks before the evidence arrives, it is almost always because the evidence is further along in its journey toward you than it appears. Sign number 5. The right people have been appearing in your life. Unexpectedly start paying serious attention to who has been crossing your path in recent weeks and months, because this sign is operating in the relational dimension of your life right now, and it is easy to miss if you're not looking for it. Before a large financial blessing, God sends the people. The connectors, the collaborators, the mentors, the doorpeners. They don't arrive after the blessing. They arrive before it, often through circumstances that look coincidental until you look back from the other side and see the precision. The person you met at an event you almost didn't attend. The conversation that started casually and ended with an exchange that you keep thinking about. The old connection that resurfaces with a timing that seems unlikely. the introduction made by someone who had no particular reason to make it. These arrivals are not random. They are placements. Strategic, intentional, divinely orchestrated placements of people who carry something, a connection, a piece of information, an opportunity, a skill that is directly related to the financial shift heading toward you. The question is not whether those people are appearing. They are. The question is whether you are showing up fully enough in the interactions to recognize what they're carrying and open the conversation that activates it. Show up fully. The people arriving in your life right now are not passing through. Some of them are being assigned. Sign number 6. Your vision for your financial future has become unusually specific. There is a difference between vague financial hope and specific financial vision. And the transition from one to the other is one of the most significant internal signs that a large financial blessing is approaching. Vague financial hope sounds like, I just want things to be better. I want to have enough. I want the stress to go away. It is real, and it is honest, but it is undirected, pointed generally toward relief, rather than specifically toward purpose. Specific financial vision sounds different. It has particular details, a specific amount, a specific purpose, a specific image of what the financial life God is building toward looks like in the practical texture of daily living. It knows what it would fund, what it would change, who it would serve, and how it would function. It is coherent enough to be written down and specific enough to be planned toward. If your financial vision has been sharpening recently, if the vague hope is resolving into something with actual details and actual direction, that sharpening is not the product of a more active imagination. It is God clarifying the target before he sends the provision. He doesn't send provision toward a vague destination. He sends it toward a specific one. And the specificity of your vision right now is the preparation of the landing space. Get more specific. Write it down. Because what you write down in faith today, God writes into reality on a timeline that is already moving. Sign number 7. You have an unusual peace about a situation that should be more stressful. This sign is the one that most surprises the people experiencing it because it doesn't match their expectations of what the season before a financial breakthrough should feel like. You have circumstances right now that logically should be generating more anxiety than you're experiencing. The financial gap is real. The uncertainty is genuine. The external situation has not resolved. And yet somewhere in the middle of all of that there is a peace that doesn't fit, a quiet that shouldn't be. There, given the circumstances, a settledness in your spirit that you didn't manufacture and that the situation doesn't justify. That peace is not denial. It is not the numbness that comes from giving up. It is something categorically different, the peace that Scripture describes as passing understanding. The peace that arrives in advance of resolution because it comes not from the resolution but from the resolver. When God is about to move significantly in your financial life, he often sends peace ahead of the provision, not as a consolation prize for continued waiting, but as confirmation that the matter is handled at a level above what you can see. The peace is the receipt, the notification that the transaction has been processed even before the deposit appears. If you are carrying peace that doesn't match your circumstances, receive it. It is not a sign that you've stopped caring or stopped believing. It is a sign that you are in the care of someone who has already taken care of what you're worried about. Sign number 8. Small financial miracles have been happening that you've been downplaying. This sign is the one that the chosen one most consistently overlooks because the human mind tends to file small evidences under lucky, while reserving the category of divine for the large ones. Think back over the recent past. Has anything happened financially that, if you're honest, you cannot fully explain? A bill that was reduced without negotiation. An unexpected refund that arrived at exactly the right moment. A financial problem that resolved in a way that had no logical mechanism. A need that was met through a source so unlikely that coincidence feels like a stretch. These small financial miracles are not the main event. They are previews. They are God showing you in the scale that your faith can currently receive what he is capable of doing at the larger scale that is coming. He sends the small ones first to build the faith for the large one, to establish the pattern, to give you evidence, real, specific, personal evidence from your own life that he moves in the financial details, not just in the spiritual generalities, in the actual numbers. in the actual bills, in the actual account balances. Stop filing those moments under lucky. Start filing them under evidence. Because evidence accumulated over time builds a case. And the case for what is coming in your financial life has been building for longer than you've recognized it. Sign number 9. This message found you at this specific moment. The final sign is the one you are living right now in this exact moment, watching this video, receiving this message. There are billions of pieces of content available to any person with a device and an internet connection. The probability that you landed on this specific message at this specific moment, in your specific season, the probability that this content found you when it did, is not something that reduces cleanly to algorithm and statistics. Something led you here. Something in the invisible, in the orchestration that operates above the level of content recommendations and browser history. Something that knew you needed to hear today in this season, before the blessing arrives, that the signs are real, the provision is genuine, and the God who is sending it is more specifically aware of your specific situation than you have fully allowed yourself to believe. The fact that you are here is a sign, not a small one. 1. Of the largest ones, because divine orchestration that places a specific message in front of a specific person at the specific moment they most need it is not casual. It is intentional, precise, personal. Receive it as such. This message reaching you today is part of the sign system that the large financial blessing is already sending ahead of itself. And the blessing that sent this message ahead of it, it is right behind it. Don't ignore what God has been trying to show you every sign eye. Describe today the restlessness, the closed doors, the generosity, the shifting prayer life, the new relationships, the sharpening vision, the unexplainable peace, the small miracles. And this message itself, every single one of them has been speaking the same language, the language of approach, of something significant getting close enough that its advanced signals are becoming impossible to ignore for anyone paying honest attention. You have been paying honest attention, maybe imperfectly. Maybe with more self-protection than you wish you'd allowed, more dismissal than the signs deserved. But honestly, with the part of you that refuses to completely stop believing, that keeps returning to faith even when faith feels like the most vulnerable choice available. That part of you was right. It has been right the entire time. And the large financial blessing that it has been pointing you toward, that it kept you leaning into, even when the evidence was thin and the wait was long. And protection of lowered expectations felt like the only safe choice. That blessing is coming. Not as a reward for perfect faith, as the fulfillment of a purpose that was attached to your life before you understood what purpose meant. A blessing sized for a mission that is larger than your personal comfort and reaches into the lives of people who are connected to your financial position changing. Do not ignore the signs. Do not pre-dismiss what your spirit is telling you. Do not downgrade the blessing to a size that feels safer to believe in. Receive it at full size, with open hands and an open heart and a prepared life that has done the inner work of being ready for what is coming. It is coming. The signs have been saying so. And the God who sent the signs does not send signs that mislead. If this message confirms something your spirit has been trying to tell you, if the signs I described are signs you've been living, please subscribe to this channel right now. Every week we come here to speak truth into the seasons that are hardest to navigate alone. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this with one person who has been dismissing the signs and needs permission to take them seriously. God bless you. The blessing is already in motion. Don't ignore the signs.